Good morning. It's December 13th, 2016. I will call the Wright County Board meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The minutes of November 29th, 2016.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner DeLyden, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. The agenda for today, Charlie?
Mr. Chair, I would like to petition on, I see we're reappointing Steve Berg as the emergency management, but I'd also like him to give an update. A week ago, we had a gas outage down in the Waverly and Montrose area, and I've asked Steve to come in and give us a little update how things went, and he said he would do that anytime after 9:30. So.
Okay, so why don't we do item for consideration B? Steve Berg update. Michelle?
Yes, had a social service supervisor resignation and position that on.
Okay, so, Lee, what do we do with that? J1?
Yes, that could go on
Or-
the consent agenda as per common practice. You could certainly put it as J on the consent agenda. That would work.
J1. And was that it, just the two items?
That's all I believe, yes.
Anybody else have anything?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Belyden, second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair, before we get too far, don't forget there's a second set of minutes from the night meeting, the truth and taxation. as well.
Oh, thank you.
You are welcome.
I overlooked that.
I'll
Appreciate
make a
that.
motion to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, and these are the November 29th, or excuse me, the November 29th evening meeting minutes.
Taxation or whatever.
That's what we used to call it. I don't know if they're officially called that anymore, but
Taxation.
No, not officially. We're no longer required to officially call it that. But we have
And
to
that-
have the meeting. So,
that was a motion by Delight and second by Houston, or Potter, second by Potter. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. I'm not sure if it was a truth and taxation meeting or a clean waters in Wright County meeting, but,
It sort of veered into that direction.
well, there was certainly more discussion on that than the taxation, which maybe is good or bad depending how you look at it, I guess, but. Okay, that brings us down to consent agenda. Any item to remove for further discussion? Bob?
Or not a removal, but a modification. The claims, we did identify a duplicate payment to M&M Express. It's on page 40 for $154.90. So Board, I'd like you to modify the claims to reflect that reduction. I have that written on your claims list up there.
So what is the total then?
It would be 1,291,004.18.
Right.
And then the transactions will go from 573 to 572.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Motion by
Second
Commissioner
that.
Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion?
Was that for just that particular thing, or was that for the consent agenda?
The
That
consent
was for the
agenda, I
consent
presume,
agenda with that modification, Mr. Chair.
recognizing the modification. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Uh, 9:03 a.m., Bob Hevola. Good morning again, Bob.
Good morning, Board. The first item on the agenda is to approve a private sale listing. Board, we've been working hard on our tax forfeitures. We're down to identifying those properties that are really only eligible for sale to private adjoining landowners. So in your packet should be a listing of those parcels and the minimum bid prices that we had picked. The second item on the agenda is tied to it, and we're setting a condition on one of those parcels. The board, I'm asking you to approve, Brian, the action is to approve the listing?
I'll make a motion to approve the private sale listings
With the condition.
with the conditions.
I'll second that.
The only motion by Delide and second by Burrell, only one has a condition on it. Is that what I understand here, or?
Correct. Correct, board.
And that's parcel 217-054-002-140.
Okay, so these are private sales where you're going to an adjacent property owner then, is that what you said, Bob?
Correct.
Now, wouldn't it be a condition, for example, now, maybe not, but if, for example, the individual that you, or maybe there's a couple individuals in some of these cases, 2 or 3, that can potentially would be able to buy it, I presume, adjacent properties. Would you require a condition B that, because I don't see it on here, that if the adjacent property bought it, that it not be split from that parcel again in the future, or if it were split, that it only be allowed to be split to one or two other adjacent properties? I mean, that's not listed theoretically. Someone could buy one of these and turn around and sell it to somebody else.
Well, I'd like to see it so that it gets blended into their existing property, so there's only one property stake.
I know, but that's not listed as a special condition right now.
Yeah, I agree, but that's
So, I
what
mean,
it should be.
But now this person could buy it for $100, and I don't know who would want it, but they could buy it to someone else for $500, sell it to someone else for $500 2 months later, and then the next thing you know, you got someone else owning the parcel, and,
Well, the bottom one it would be the most concerning one.
well, yeah, I would agree. But in any case, if we're requiring him to go to adjacent property and only letting those people bid, shouldn't we require on the recorded document that it must stay with that property then?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, we've, as staff, we've recommended that sometimes, but we haven't necessarily required it with all parcels. We'd have to go back and look at these. With the 40-acre landlocked parcel, the last one on the list, you know, anybody can own that. It's just a question of what you can do with it. So, I mean, it's almost like we can't prohibit someone from the Twin Cities from buying this 40 acres, but we can put it on a private sale list, which effectively doesn't give notice to anyone except adjacent owners. So, by and large, I think we've kind of identified those that should be combined. And why these went tax forfeit, I'm not entirely sure, but, you know,
But that one then, if someone can buy it for a fraction of the price, because we don't want someone else owning it and have a landlocked parcel, then we shouldn't let them sell it to someone else later and have a landlocked parcel.
Mr. Chair, it's, I think the value has more to do with the fact that it's mainly wetland. As I recall, it's a big wetland area. So it's not necessarily usable property, but,
No, but the value is $45,000 and the purchase price is $6,000.
and the main reason
So-
for that is to get it back on the tax rolls. You know, right now, it's not generating anything. We can go back and look at these again, but we'd be delaying the private sale. I'm just saying, I think in the past, we've tried to identify those that should be combined with the adjacent parcel. And that owner always has the right to ask for that. It's just a matter of filling out a form and turning it into Bob's office to make it one tax ID.
An ID.
No, I understand, but that doesn't, they have a right to ask for it, but I guess the question is, do we want to require it?
And I'm saying to do that, we would be best to go back and have another meeting and then delay the sale.
But if we
'Cause
do want to.
I'm not sure about the conditions. I don't know that, I can't say that for each and every private sale parcel we have, that we should require combination with an adjacent parcel. That, I don't think that's a true statement. So we'd probably want to go back and look at these.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Potter,
Tax Forfeit Committee has looked at these. We've been trying to clean up a lot of these nuisance properties, for lack of a better word, because they're just sitting there. And most of these only have a value to the adjacent property owner, and even at $45,000, nobody's gonna buy it because they're not, unless, of course, they know the owner and gonna be granted an easement, which it's unlikely being that one there. The idea was to get these back on the private hands and get them off every time assessor, the auditor treasurer, the legal, look at it. It costs us money every time they look at these and go back and review these again.
Yeah, but it'd be nice to have them so that when you sell the one, that it gets tied into their other PID, so that there's not too little.
Well, there's, with the, one on lot 15, block 2, Spring Park, seeing it's a plat. It's problematic to do that. You can combine them, but you're still gonna have two separate PIDs no matter how you slice it, because there are lots of record.
But at least you can make sure that it doesn't get split off again.
Yeah.
But if there's 10 feet there, and it really makes sense only to go with that parcel,
Right.
then you make sense that it's with it, and it doesn't get split off again is all. I don't,
Mr. Chair, that's true with that parcel. It is not buildable, it's not very wide. It's got a culvert that comes under the township road and then goes to Augusta Lake. The Bob staff is ready for the private sale, but I don't think there's any magic to the date that they picked in January. So, I mean, we could meet again as staff and review these and then come back to you with,
Well, is there any way we can approve this and have the date stick where it is, but authorize the committee to add conditions after the fact, but before the sale? After today, but before the sale?
it would depend on the timelines, because we have to notify people 30 days in advance of the sale date. I think they picked, I want to say January 20th?
Right.
Is that it?
Commissioners,
here.
there's no magic reasoning to January, so if you want, we can postpone this to
Well,
February.
Yeah.
I mean, why not, if it makes sense to actually require some of these continue under the ownership of who buys them and that they can't split them off later, it seems to me that now's the time to do it, not think about it later, but.
Commissioners, I agree with you. I mean, the last
It'd
thing
be
I
a
want
matter
is,
of whether or not we could get together early next week and, in order to get the proper timing on the notices to the adjacent owners.
Right.
We can try that.
yeah, Commissioners, my motivation would to combine them to prevent these little slivers from going unpaid again, so.
And to the extent you can make them one PID number, I think that's good, because then you don't risk them
Right.
not paying taxes again, because if they
Exactly.
don't pay taxes on the little piece, they'll lose the big piece, which is where their home is
And,
probably.
and it's included in their parcel.
The board, if you're okay with it, why don't we just delay this? I'll bring it back to you. We'll probably look at February or March as being a private sale.
Have to rescind motion in a second.
Okay, well, yeah, so what's the best way to handle this? We do have a motion and a second, Brian, but it sounds like maybe we don't want, so, motion maker want to rescind their motion, and
Yeah, I'll rescind it.
second, rescind the second? Was that Charlie?
Yeah, I'll
Okay. Okay, so are you gonna get, Charlie and Mike back together with the committee and then verify if it makes sense to put those restrictions on? Or how, you know what I mean?
Should we
Look at them on a map
Mr.
and,
Chair, I'll make a motion to refer this back to the tax forfeit committee for the discussion points that we noted up here.
And then should we make part of
I'll
that?
second that.
Should we meet before the board meeting next week, or?
Commissioners, with your permission, why don't I work with my staff and come up with a game plan?
Okay.
And then we'll call a tax forfeiture committee, much like we have in the past, a Tuesday, 8:30 before the board meeting. How's
And if
that?
that day in January changes, it changes.
Yeah. That way I'm not fixing my staff to
Yeah.
a time yet.
okay, so we need a motion then to.
Got a motion?
You made the motion.
Motion by Mike, second by Charlie to,
No, by Mark.
second by Mark to set a tax forfeiture committee to evaluate these at some point in the future then. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, so I guess I took care of 1 and 2. County ditch 3.
And,
Commissioners, Charlie, I believe you requested us to
yeah,
put this on here.
I put it on, it's the same thing that we have in a lot of our ditches. The benefit rolls are very unfair. There's one or two people that, you don't have the percentage here, but
Right.
one or two people that pay the lion's share of anything that gets done on the ditch. And there's a lot more, they felt that are benefited, so I said, they're gonna need to get redetermined anyway. I said, if you want it, we might as well get it on the list right away, so.
All right, this map was to support Charlie in saying that, we do have benefited land inside the benefited area of the ditch system that aren't paying any benefits. You're right, we don't have the amount of percentage benefit. So I agree, Charlie, you know, we're systematically gonna be doing these anyways. We might as well add this to the list of redeterminations.
So is there work that's gonna be done on that ditch in the not-too-distant future that you foresee?
There was some work done, I think, and that's what prompted the.
But that work was
It
pre-redetermination,
was,
so.
he'll still have to pay that, but they're just afraid if you do anything more, you know, whatever.
Well, it makes no difference, like Bob said, that they're all gonna have to be redetermined anyway with the new buffer law anyway, so.
I
just
remember,
about
Board,
get it
this is
done.
where 35 was raised up. So we did do some cleaning out of the ditch, but not at the expense of the landowners, but to make it easier for us to do that repair to the road.
I'll make a motion to approve, or to order redetermination on County Ditch 3.
Second.
Motion by Delight, second by Burrell, and then relative to who does that, that will be determined at a future date?
Who does the redeterminations?
Yeah.
Board, we already have Ron Rehnquist and his crew on retainer for doing 4 other redeterminations. I'd like to reach out to him and say, hey, you know, if you're here doing the legwork, could we add this one in there?
Hey, because isn't Houston kind of doing it some way too with some sort of?
That's not approved yet,
Oh,
though.
that's not approved, oh, they're not able to do that yet, okay.
Right.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Board, the last item on the agenda is a new tobacco license. On the consent, you saw that you approved some renewals. This would be a new tobacco license, doing business as the Dark Horse Vapory. So this is
You
a
got an
new
address for
license, so
that?
I'm asking you on the agenda.
Do you have an address there?
.542 Cedar Avenue, Monticello.
Okay.
That's your neighbor then, no?
I'll make a motion to approve the new tobacco license for Dark Horse Vapors.
I'll second that.
Motion by Delight, second by Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Sunny Hess. Good morning, Sunny.
Good morning. I am here today to request approval of revisions to policy 711, acceptable use of technology, specific to subsection 71109, enterprise applications, and it's to add language regarding email retention. This was discussed at the Technology Committee and approved by the Technology Committee. Adam brought it forward to request that we get it in front of the board for approval.
And it looks, the Technology Committee's vetted it, so.
Yep, yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the 711 acceptable use of technology policy,
The revisions.
the revisions.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Delight, second by Commissioner Burrell. Any further discussion?
Just regarding the email retention thing, I don't know if you've been reading the paper, Hennepin County has gone to a 1 month
1 month.
retention on
that's
some of
crazy.
it. And legislators are looking at that, thinking it might not be enough. But I'm glad that they did that because the state has been so lax on coming up with the,
Standard.
well, the standard on how, what constitutes records and how long they should be kept. And so at least they're going to have some conversations at the state this year regarding what it should be. So instead of all the counties having different things.
And maybe, Adam, you want to address this, but we're deleting emails after 1 year, but anything that's a record is still maintained.
That's correct, Commissioner Burrell. What we're introducing is a records management policy. So our goal is to really get anything that is technically a record out of email and into its approved location, so that if it's in somebody's inbox, only they have access to it. So if there's something that's classified as a record that other people need access to, it needs to go into that location, whether it's a shared folder on the F drive or if it's in our SharePoint system or our on-base system.
So as part of this, there'll be some additional training that's going to be done. And, well, how much are we How fast is our email stuff growing?
We're at about 1.5 gigs per day on average, as far as space growth.
So, it's a
and
lot.
Yeah.
I have on the next week's agenda, we want to bring forward the records management policy so that we can actually move forward with the training for the county staff on trying to determine what is a record and what's not. So there seems to be kind of a general misunderstanding about email. And email in and of itself is not technically a record. And so that's kind of the thing to get our brains wrapped around. It's the contents of the email that constitute the record.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Osselson, good morning again.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As indicated on my agenda request, this item had been before the Ways and Means Committee, referred there by the board. Earlier this year, the county was deeded a one-sixth undivided interest in 80 acres of farmland in Franklin Township. Kind of an unusual situation where some siblings had inherited land, and we think that one of the siblings is not exactly on the same page as the others, and in any event, it was determined that the best way to dispose of this interest in property would be to approach the other fractional owners, and we were actually approached by an attorney representing one of the other fractional owners. And after a couple of closed sessions talking about the relative value that that the undivided interest would have, we came up with the purchase agreement that's in your agenda packet today. And the buyer has deposited earnest money and is ready to close whenever it's approved by the board.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Newsom?
I'm glad to see that this is working out very well, and I'll make a motion to approve this.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Newsom, second by Commissioner Lyden. Any further discussion? Perhaps, this individual had no heirs, is correct?
I believe it was the mother who passed away in, I want to say within the last 5 years or so, and had basically, I think in her will, indicated that each of the kids would get a 1/6 interest. And the person who actually conveyed it to the county had placed it in a trust. And when he passed away, I believe his spouse conveyed it to the county. So it's kind of a long, complicated trail. But
They had no children, if I remember correctly.
that I'm not positive on. But.
I think,
But in any event, I guess, otherwise, I think a thank you letter would be in order to some heirs as far as this very substantial
Yep.
donation to Wright County.
I do have an address, and we could send something out, sure.
It seems to me we certainly ought to do that, and, because we don't often have somebody hand us $65,000.
right.
And the other note, Mr. Chair, is that the title standards call for a resolution of the board. I think especially in the case of this fractional interest, the buyer's attorney wants that, so it would be a voice vote, or a roll call vote, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
And I guess the final question would be, is there any particular fund that this $65,000 goes into? I mean, I presume we can put it into the general fund, or the board could take action to put it somewhere else. Is there any reason it ought to go anywhere else? Or
I don't have any suggestions, Mr. Chair.
does anybody up here have any suggestions just beyond going in the general fund? Apparently, we didn't get any advice from the donator on what they
Right.
wanted the money to be used for.
No, I wasn't able to find it.
Otherwise, we'd certainly be happy to accommodate those wishes.
It could go in the Parks Fund or something. I mean, donating that kind of land,
It would be,
it makes no difference.
it would be nice, actually, if we could maybe somehow use part of it anyway for down in Franklin Township. They're working on doing a township park down there too, and maybe, I don't know, that would, might not, you know,
Yeah.
I guess we
But
can
I
figure
think,
it out later.
yeah, I just think so long as we remember it.
We got time to decide that one.
Mr. Chair, I do have one, and Brian, maybe you can answer this. You know, we had one one sibling that came forward through the attorney to buy it, we're not dissing the other 4 kids or whatever. Now, if we go through with this deal, are one of them gonna come forward and say, you didn't even tell us that you were selling it, you went and sold it to my sister, and we wanted it too?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Burrell, that's a good question. I considered that, notifying all the relatives. I'm not sure that I had current addresses for all of them unless they were in the probate file, and I don't remember exactly how that all played out. But in the case of, and I would say normally when the county sells so-called surplus property, we advertise in the paper. Because of the undivided interest nature of this, it just didn't make sense to sell it to a member of the public.
Exactly.
But you raise a good point. I honestly don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
I guess we
Brian,
never-
I mean, they were
yeah.
working through their attorney, so it seemed like, maybe I'm not remembering that right, but that the other siblings knew about this, but maybe I'm not remembering that correctly.
Mr. Chair and Commissioner Hewson, my understanding of the conversations I had with Richard Grinley, the attorney from Delano that represented the buyer, was that the other...
Kind of okay with it.
Well, the other siblings didn't have the wherewithal to make this purchase. And so I think it was a situation where only one of them really had the money laying around to get this back in the family, so...
It's not, I mean, this is something we
Well, that's a
don't,
good question.
we don't do it every day either.
And I think when the attorney first approached us, we weren't exactly sure if they were representing one party or
Correct.
all of them, or who
Correct.
they were representing.
Yeah,
That's correct.
yeah.
Well, hopefully
But that is a good question.
hopefully the attorney is open with the rest of the
Yeah.
families.
So you don't have any concern about evaluating that further before we,
No, I don't.
okay.
No. Based on the representations that have been made by, like I say, by the attorney.
Well, hopefully they were accurate. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, Commissioner Burrell?
Aye.
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 And just for the, what is the name of the 2 folks that donated us the money then? And ultimately, the land that ultimately became the money, just so we can, I mean, I think it'd be nice to get their name on record here.
I can find the deed.
We know the buyer is Mrs. Barron's, but,
So the deed to the county where we acquired the property was the, nope, I'm on the wrong page here, sorry.
and maybe that 65,000, when it's in the reserve then somewhere, maybe next to it should be, whatever this person's name is, gift or something, so we know
Correct.
that's what that 65,000 is in the future for the,
The property was held by the Paul B. Christensen and Rita Christensen Trust. And so it was, Christensen is spelled Christiansen. And my recollection is that Paul had passed away. Rita, his widow, the trustee of this trust, and conveyed that to the county. They live in, I believe, in the metro area.
okay.
I've got
So
the
Paul and
address
Rita
somewhere.
Christensen were the contributors,
Correct.
okay.
I think that's appropriate.
And you said, and so then Rita is still alive then?
I believe so, and that's where I would send a thank you note.
That's, I was just gonna say that, because I do think that's.
She is still alive, okay, I thought,
No, she is still alive. She's still trustee of the property that was, there were other properties also, I think, that were placed into this trust, and this one she conveyed to the county.
Follow through with this one before.
You know, I guess I would even
Well, can
say
we-
thank you and ask her if there had anything that she felt strongly about as
I agree
far
with that. Let's send her a letter. Let's
Yeah.
thank her and let's ask her if she has any particular thing that she would like
I
the
can do
county
that.
to, any category of things. You know what I mean? I don't know that we,
you know, whether it be
Consider.
parks or
parks.
whatever,
Yeah.
you know.
Makes
You know?
sense.
Yeah.
she feels strongly about her current commissioner and wants a statue of him built somewhere, whatever.
Mr. Chair, we did,
That we may not agree to, but something reasonable we would certainly agree to.
just a note, when this first came in, when the conveyance came through the auditor's office, I believe they contacted the law firm down in the metro that had drafted the deed to the county and asked that same question, is this being deeded to the county for any particular purpose? And they were told no, but by the lawyers. But I agree with Commissioner Burrell, it makes sense that
Well, no,
if I'm sending out a note anyway, I
It'd be
can
a good thing to ask.
at least
You know,
ask that.
It's even more than a $65,000 donation because somebody's paying for the attorneys and stuff too. So should have that expense as well. So, I mean, it's really a sizable donation on her part, so, right? I mean, because this isn't 65,000 less attorney fees, this is 65,000. Yeah.
Well, the current attorney fees, I presume, are being paid for by the other sister, or the sister-in-law, or whoever, that Miss
Right,
Barron's.
but there was a law firm involved
Originally, yeah.
back, yeah, so.
Now, whether that law firm would have charged any more had this piece of property been in the whole process, or if it's, or not, that is on an unknown, but.
Anyway, very generous
Thank you.
donation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did we do the roll call vote yet?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. Virgil Hawkins, good morning, Virgil.
Good morning, Chairman Swatsky and Board of Commissioners. Today, I have one item today for your consideration, and it is to review and approve the minutes of the Owners Committee meeting on November 10th. Just a brief summary. The overall project budget was reviewed by Ken Francis of Kraus Anderson, and then he went through some open issues left with the building that include the roof, the door thresholds, trench drains, hose reels, some moisture that was a possibility of moisture in the walls that was checked out, 800 megahertz system, data room, and diesel exhaust sensors. There was really no action items. It was just an update on where things are at. There was no date set for a future meeting, but one could certainly be called in the future if needed.
It was kind of a nice meeting. The November meeting, we did what we should have did in the October meeting, but didn't do for whatever reason. So, that was kind of nice.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes, if that's what you need.
Second.
Yep, motion by Delide, second by Potter. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thanks, Virgil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, in place of Mark Mattice, we've got Brad. How you doing, Brad?
Doing well. Morning, Chairman and Board. So we are here just to ask, we've got 3 of our staff that are needing to go to trail grooming clinic. It's out of state. It is in Ironwood, Michigan. So we're just asking permission to send them out of state for this clinic.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, on the slip here, it says the grooming clinic,
Yeah.
and the chairman had some really concerns on why.
Yeah, facial
go to
hair,
Michigan
things
for
like that. We're
grooming.
trying to work on the appearance of the Parks Department a little bit better, but.
That's what I kind of thought, that, some of the guys weren't looking up to standard.
We just thought maybe you could get it done closer instead of having to go all the way to Michigan to learn how to groom.
We tried, but there's just not a whole lot going on. They don't want to mess with our guys too much.
There's some very nice salons right here in Buffalo you could send them to.
I'll make a motion to approve them to attend the Midwest Grooming Clinic in Ironwood, Michigan.
I'll second that.
Motion by Delide, second by Houston. Any further discussion?
Just so long as there's not a snowstorm or something and, that they get stuck up there or something.
And stay out of Hurley.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
It's after 9:30 a.m., Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. Who's going to kick this off? Okay.
We don't,
He's gonna go down to these guys.
We're gonna skip Lee.
oh. Oh,
I'm sorry, you know what? I skipped something here. My apologies. Lee, I overlooked you. How could I do that? 9:25, Lee Kelly, County Coordinator.
we thought you did on purpose.
Thank you,
Oh,
Mr.
it's the second
Chair.
thing I skipped today, so.
On the agenda in front of you is resolutions proposed relative to adopting the 2017 county budget levy. As you know, this is the final piece of our budget process for the year. There's 2 options for the resolution that are included in your packet. The first one being what was adopted in September as a preliminary levy. As discussed at the Truth and Taxation meeting, there was some question about any adjustments that may be able to be made relative to the health insurance now that we have completed open enrollment. So the second resolution reflects a change based on that. It is a small amount, but that is reflected in there as requested. So the 2 options are before you.
I only have one.
I do.
Well, you have the one, but you,
Well, yeah, there's only one, but it just mentions in the,
Okay,
Up
got
in
it,
in the
yeah.
front.
in there that
page
it's
here, yeah.
7,060 less, so. If we were supposed to get a second one, Lee, we didn't get it.
Oh,
Um,
did not make it in the printed packet. I see it is online, so.
yeah, but I guess we can assume that the budget's $7,060 less and the levy's gonna be $7,060 less, right?
Correct.
Mr. Chair, recall the conversation, we were kind of waiting on that number to see what size it was and what impact it would have on the
Yeah,
budget.
if you recall, we actually did pull maybe 100 or 200 out of it originally.
250,000 was
Okay.
removed during the budget
One of
session.
us said, I know we can pull that amount out and we'll still be okay. And we were, and apparently there was, quite frankly, I thought there might be even more slop than the 7,060, but apparently there was 7,060 or more, so.
So I think it was a pretty accurate
Yeah.
taking of that to get down to that number.
So what actually,
Yeah, what is the numbers then?
so is it 113,868,869
Minus 7,060 if you,
minus the 7,000 then?
Correct. So that figure for the budget would then be 113,861,809.
does it all come out of general fund or is it split up among the three categories?
No, it's all in general fund.
Okay, so then you take 7,060 out of the general fund then too.
Correct. So general
Carry
fund would
the out
read
of.
59,020,858.
And then the levy would go down by 7,060 also, and the general fund number would be down by 7,060 also. So there'd be four numbers changed.
Correct. So your final levy would be 58,184,217.
Well, okay, go ahead. I was just gonna comment that I guess if we would've known the exact number before we did the levy, we would've put the exact number in, so we might as well put the exact number in now.
I'll make a motion to choose option B, reflecting a reduction of $7,060 for the
Motion,
final levy.
Mr. Chair, for clarification, option B then?
Yes, option B.
motion by Commissioner Delighten, which is for the budget and levy.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Houston. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Burrell?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution carries unanimous. Okay, now we're down to Central Minnesota Jobs and Training.
You're back.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this morning. My name is Brian Davis. I'm the Regional Supervisor at Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. I know you've seen our CEO, Barb Chafee, up here talking about some of the good works that we do through CMJTS. Today, it's our turn to share some of those good things we do. We are here to share some of the good work done through our business service team and how they enhance working with our programs, the youth programs, adult programs, public assistance programs, and some of the things that they've been doing. We have 3 members today from our business service team to share some of the good work they're doing. We also have a PowerPoint in front of you. They're Tim Zapoy, he's our workforce development coordinator, Bridget Clemens, our placement specialist, and Christina Fluger, our work-based training coordinator. So I'll hand it over to Tim.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Tim.
Thank you for having us. And again, as Brian mentioned, we're with Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. We're a 32-year-old not-for-profit employment and training organization. We're headquartered in Monticello. We're headquartered here in Wright County. We're in the business of resources, information, hope, and inspiration. We're all about first job, next job, last job. We're about first job, or rather first employee, next employee, perhaps last employee. So business services and job seekers. We're here to tell you a little bit about our group's activities and outcomes. And again, on behalf of our CEO, Barb Chafee, and certainly our board, we thank you for the opportunity today. So I'm going to just keep us moving and tell you excitedly about some of the work in what we're calling some of our, I'll call it sector work today. Whereas our Workforce Investment Board primarily focuses on high wage, high growth, high demand kind of occupations. Traditionally, it's healthcare and manufacturing, other things too. Excited today to talk about some work in retail and the transportation industry. As I'm going, I'm wondering, seeking permission to approach, and can I share some stuff with you?
Absolutely.
Yeah? Okay, thank you. 2 pieces of information. So we've gotten pretty good at doing, I'm gonna call them sector or career expos and hiring events. We've done them recently in healthcare, focusing on home care and long-term care. And we did a retail event this last September at the Monticello Workforce Center, and tomorrow, doing a career expo and hiring event in transportation. So the notion is to kind of call it maybe a smaller scale job fair. We call them career expos and hiring events. We work hard to promote the event to the job-seeking public and work hard to get business and industry to come so that we can engage those looking for work and those looking to hire them. So happy to report on September 21st, this last September 21st, we had a retail sector event. I had 18 primarily Wright County companies, some beyond, come, and about 50-some job seekers came that day too. I'm happy to report that by design, we had people get jobs and companies hired great people. So I'm real happy to report that kind of activity around the retail event. Bridget's going to tell you more about some of a grant that we got and some other things that we're doing in retail. Want to talk quickly about tomorrow's transportation event. Happy to report that I've got 24 businesses coming, probably a dozen of them from Wright County. And when you think of transportation, or when you think of retail, for example, it's not just behind the counter. It's all the things that go on in retail: supply, logistics, IT, security, all those things that one might not immediately associate with retail. Same too with transportation. I like to think it's so much more than you can be behind the wheel, you can be behind the desk, and everywhere in between in transportation. And it's over the road, but it's specialized. It's medical transportation. It's all those companies that you see before you. I think I included a list of those companies coming tomorrow. So really excited about that. Hats off to great Wright County companies. I'm going to have an Arston semi-tractor in the parking lot, an M&M school bus in the parking lot, a Functional Industries bus in the parking lot, and a Miss O and a Blaine Brothers service truck out of all of Wright County to kind of help people jump into the wheel or behind the wheel and project themselves into that kind of work. So wanted to tell you a little bit about our work in sector development, focusing on career expos and hiring events. Want to recognize and thank our partners, to include Commissioner Sawatsky and his wonderful River City sign business. Thank you for your partnership. Happy to report the other day I got a call from our sign. Thank you so much. And thank you to Wright County Journal Press and Drummer, KRWC Radio, and all our other partners that help us engage the job-seeking public and put companies together with great folks looking for great jobs. So that's my piece, I think. Questions or comments for me?
Mr. Chair.
Mike?
Yes, Tim, tomorrow is KRWC going to do a spotlight?
Yes, sir. Actually, we did one yesterday. I had the chance to go over to the station and partnered up with Tim Matthews and did a call-in with the guy Todd Haig. He's the safety and HR manager out at Arston Transfer. So we did kind of a three-way conversation that way. And to your point, I spoke with Joe out in the hallway here this morning, and he's coming over. Bless his heart. He comes over, does live drops, and he gets businesses on the radio so that they can talk that day too. So I look forward to working with Joe tomorrow.
This is where I went with that, is that last month, and I believe this month, myself and I believe Commissioner Burrell got bumped a week on our spotlight commissioners to accommodate this, which I'm fine with. That's good. It was good. It was good. Because you got good response. Yeah, just to let people know that this is important. Let people know, and every medium you can use to get people out there getting jobs. And I appreciate the work that you and all the staff does out there to help people find employment.
You're very kind, and apologies, sir, for schedule, and we appreciate your flexibility. And as I recall, we were over at the Monticello McDonald's that day, broadcasting about wonderful careers at that company. So apologies, and we'll tighten up the schedule.
No apology needed. I think it was a worthy
All right.
cause.
Appreciate your flexibility. Anything else I can do for you?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Tim.
All right,
Thanks so much, Tim.
Good morning. My name is Bridget Clemens. I'm a placement specialist at CMJTS, and I'm really excited to tell you about a grant that we received. It's called the Retail Genius Grant, and it was awarded to us by the Walmart Foundation. The Walmart Foundation only awarded 10 of those grants across the United States, and so we are very fortunate to provide that. The purpose of the grant is to increase the number of individuals receiving career success skills training, retail-specific training, and National Retail Federation certifications. How we will do that is we'll enroll 300 people across our 11-county region, and we're also partnering with the Stearns and Benton Employment Training Council to provide those services to Stearns and Benton County participants. We are going to be focusing on retail-related sector careers because 1 in 4 jobs is retail-related. It's not just the cashier or the store manager at your local market. It's bigger than that. It's human resources. It's the people that hire and train those people to work in those stores. It's the IT department. It is the marketing and training and graphics department, even the logistics and transportation to get the products to the stores. Those are all retail sector related careers. And we're able to provide training for on-the-job training for the businesses to help them get quality candidates. We're also able to provide work experience so people can get the skills and training they need to be a good employee and a long-term employee for the retail sector jobs. We also have an opportunity to provide what's called incumbent worker training to existing employees in the retail sector to grow their career and move up in that field.
Mr. Chair?
Questions?
Yes.
So who do you have signed up here in Wright County to do this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Who do you have signed up in Wright County to do this, as far as businesses, the retail businesses?
We worked with, we enroll the customers, we identify their career goals, and then we approach the businesses within that field and share opportunities with them and the services that we provide to that business and make that connection between the job seeker and the business.
So you don't have any businesses currently signed up
We
in
work
Wright
with a
County?
lot of businesses one-on-one, and I am very open to walking into the door to any business in the county and asking, how can we serve you? How can we bring you quality candidates for your open positions?
So you have many that you're working with on that?
Yes. It's
Is that, so too many to mention, is that, or?
No, we partner with Hoagland Busing is a huge partner with Central Minnesota Jobs and Training. Coburn's has always been a wonderful partner with us. We work with Cub Foods. We reach out to the small businesses in the area. Senex Gas Station has a wonderful store manager, Mike Nix, who is open to working with us. So it's really a kind of across all sectors, and we are open to working with any business that needs our support. Do you have any other questions? Did that answer your question, sir?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning. So, like Brian had mentioned, I'm Christina Pfluger. I'm the work-based training coordinator for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. And Bridget had mentioned that we have the ability to assist businesses with incumbent worker training funds. And this is new for us. I've been in this role for almost a year now, but with CMJTS for 6 years. So with incumbent worker training, we're able to assist businesses with upskilling their current employees. So that could be, right now we have businesses looking for leadership training, welding training, specific trainings that could upskill their current workforce. So we've had a lot of opportunity to assist businesses finding new employees, but these incumbent worker training funds have allowed us the ability to help them with their current employees. And right now here in Wright County, we have Hoagland Bus and Truck. Bridget had mentioned has been a great partner with us. And they have taken a handful of their supervisors and managers and are sending them through formal training. So I can see this being a really big asset to their business long-term, not only for the individual employees receiving the training, but also for their training, hiring, recruiting, and retention. So my goal right now with the other business service team members is to be promoting that we have these dollars to help businesses with their current employees' training needs. So it's been it's been fun, it's been new for us, and I hope to see it take off. Right now we have 6 current applications they're working on their training, and a lot more that are interested in working on finding training needs and the employees that are interested in attending training. So it's been exciting. Any questions for?
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Mike?
I think with all the fine work that Central Minnesota Jobs and Training does is why Wright County in particular has one of the lowest poverty rates in the state, is because we have the wherewithal to help people find employment, and they do get up and go, and I think a lot of the counties that you work with are all in that same category. Thank you for your work.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Further questions?
Appreciate you coming over today.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks for
stopping
having
in.
us.
One other item, Mr. Chair. I wanted one more shout out for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training. Thank you for hosting and providing space for us with the 7W SEDS going that, because that was a large undertaking on your part, and it was that conduit to help us get started, back geared up with that. So again, thank you for that.
Items for consideration, cancel meeting in January, 5 Tuesdays.
J1.
Mr. Chair, we do have 5 Tuesdays in January. The suggestion I had, or recommendation, would be to cancel the 31st.
Consent agenda, J1 consent agenda.
That would work. The 31st, the last one of the month. I know we have some labor negotiations activities going on that day, so.
I'll make a motion to cancel January 31st meeting.
That would be like New Year's Eve.
Motion by Commissioner Delyden to cancel the 31st of January. Your second.
I'll second that. However, Mr. Chair, I will not be at the January 10th meeting. So.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Steve Berg. Morning, Steve.
Good morning.
You have your PowerPoint all prepared, Steve?
No, I do not.
Well, Charlie talked up the polished presentation we were going to receive.
I need a little more notice.
I gave him 6 hours of notice.
Well, he even said the reason he's not here yet is he's over working on it. He's polishing it up.
As Christine would testify, that when I start talking at chiefs and EMS meeting, they say, that's enough. So I usually have to ask, does anybody have to go to the bathroom before I start talking?
If I could just preface this a little bit, I don't know if the entire listening audience knows, but we had a major natural gas outage down in the Waverly and Montrose area a week ago today. And they set up an incident command center down at the XL Center in Montrose, and Steve was down there. I've never been involved in that. I asked Steve if I could down and just, look around, and it was interesting. I mean, I was impressed with the number of people that came in, and Steve can talk about it, but while I was there, it was probably about 3 hours after the notification, and there were 4 people came in from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I'm like, wow, they had just, I don't know how many, but over 100 people probably. But anyway, let us know how it went, I guess.
We had a similar experience about 7 or 8 years ago in Buffalo, as you probably remember, where they did the same thing. They're going to do some repairs on the gas line, so what they do is they build a bypass to temporarily flow the gas through while they work on this one section. Well, similarly to the one in Buffalo, they crimped the wrong line. So they crimped the good line, they crimped the gas off and started dropping gas. This happened about 3:30 on Tuesday, the 6th of December. We got notified, well, how I got notified is dispatch started getting calls about 6 o'clock or around that time on Tuesday evening of people out of gas in the Waverly and Montrose area, that their furnaces wouldn't work, their house was getting cold, turn up the furnace, it doesn't kick on. So there's about a 3-hour lag time from when it actually happened until we started getting notified. Dispatch called me and said, I don't know what's going on, Steve, but you might want to check on this. We're getting a lot of gas outages in the Waverly area. They had called XL Energy, but didn't really get any answers from it. So then I called the emergency number as soon as I got notified at XL. Got a hold of a dispatcher that really couldn't give me a lot of information, but said he'd get in contact with his supervisor and have him call me. In the meantime, I called the fire chiefs at Waverly and Montrose asking if they were aware of what was going on. They were not. I asked the dispatcher if he had notified any of these people. He couldn't give me that information. So I told them that we would be meeting down at one of the fire stations, either Waverly or Montrose. In the meantime, then I was already in Buffalo because I was doing some instruction for Buffalo Fire Department that night, and went down to dispatch to talk to them a little bit more to get some more information from them. After that, then I got a call back from Scott Johnson from XL Energy which turned out that Scott and I have been in meetings together, so we knew each other, so that was a plus. We did have some contact and knowledge about each other, so we decided that we'd set up a command post at the XL Energy Service Center in Montrose. So we all met down there. I called the fire chiefs back, they called the mayors, and brought them in down at the XL Energy. Prior to me getting notified, Scott had already notified the Howard Lake Public Works about setting up a shelter up there at the old middle school, so we had that going. Checked to see if they had notified the Minnesota State Duty Officer, and they had, but then I called him again later just to make sure that he had information on what was taking place. One thing about gas outages, they're a little different than electrical outages. Electrical, when we start coming back, you don't have to go in and shut everything down and then come back and relight everything. You know, the electric crews, utilities go out, they start fixing lines. When they throw connections back together, it puts in hundreds of people at a time. Whereas gas outages, first of all, you have to go around and shut off all the meters in that affected area. So all the meters in that affected area in Montrose and Waverly had to be turned off first. Then once that's done, then the connections are reconnected where the problem took place, south of Waverly. Then they have to go back and relight all these. Now, turning them off isn't quite so bad because they do it at the outside meter. So all they have to make sure is that they don't get shot when they're walking around at 3 o'clock in the morning shutting off services. But when it comes to lighting, now we got to make sure that how we get in these places where people aren't home, that we notify these people, that there's going to be people knocking on their door asking to come in and relight them and stuff. Most of the people that are cold are glad to see them, so it's not a problem. But some people that haven't had notice of what's going on, so we have to set all this up. And like Commissioner Burrell said, we had about 111 technicians show up to help, and they came from all over the state of Minnesota, some from bordering states in Wisconsin, Iowa, and South Dakota as well, to come in. So it's the same. If you remember, the Buffalo outage was a little bit bigger, and it looked like an army of white vans descending on the city of Buffalo. This was similar to that of these crews coming in, these technicians coming in to Montrose. Everything was going pretty smooth. The only thing that really held us up a little bit with deployment of those crews was the mapping machine of XL started acting up. And instead of, we had maps as big as this table, so we could start setting up where these crews are going to be deployed to. And it started acting up, so then we were ended up cutting little pieces of maps and putting them together in the mapping room and in the deployment room for getting these crews out. So it delayed getting these crews out to start shutting people off and to start this whole process. It was kind of nice though having them in the building because all that body heat kept that building warm for a while. So it got pretty chilly once those crews were deployed and stuff. Again, we were lucky that the temperatures stayed where they are and they're not where they were today, so that helped us and gave us a little bit of time. So again, I can't remember exactly when we got the crews finally deployed out to start shutting meters off. But like I say, it started about 6:30 when we started getting a notice and started things happening. The shelter got opened up there. What we did, I have cots. I have 50 cots and 100 blankets that happen to be stored in Montrose. So we loaded those up on one of their city trucks, and we were going to deploy them right away, and then we decided the last time in Buffalo, we opened up the middle school in Buffalo for that one. We only had 1 or 2 people come down and ask for a blanket. Nobody showed up at the shelter. So instead of deploying them right away, I said, let's just wait and see what we have for people showing up there. We opened that about, I think it got opened about 7 o'clock or something like that. Went until 6 the next morning when we decided then to close it. Nobody showed up there, so we didn't deploy them, but we had them ready to go if we needed them. Then I contacted Red Cross and the state Homeland Security Emergency Management for other resources that were on standby. So I had manpower and other resources available to us if we would have needed them, but as it turned out, we didn't. It went pretty well. Between Scott Johnson and myself, we worked really well together because, again, that connection. I remember Michael Campion, when he was the Commissioner of Public Safety in the state, every time he talked, he said, the time to hand out your business card is before the event, not during the event. And so that kind of kept Scott and I on the same framework. We haven't really done an after-action report on this yet. I've talked with Scott a couple times since that, but we haven't really finalized that after-action report on this. That we usually try to do just to see what went well, what went bad, and what we can learn from this as well. I don't know why we didn't get notified sooner. That 3-hour delay kind of bothered me, and we haven't talked a lot about that with Excel. I understand that the technicians and the crew out there working on it, the construction, I don't think they realized that they crimped the wrong line right away. So it takes time for them to get feedback saying, hey, something's wrong. Then it starts the process. But there was a little delay there in notification to us on that. One of the other things, when I talk about relighting and stuff, and we can get back in the houses that people are there, but this time of year, there's a lot of people that the snowbird population that has already left. It's hard to find contact who's taking care of that house and how to get into that house. So what we do, I called the locksmiths. We were able to get 2 locksmiths to come to the service center and then 2 deputies to go with them to open up the houses that they couldn't get into so that they can relight them and make sure that they're taken care of and they're not freezing up on that. There's lakeshore cabins, there's the snowbird population and people. They keep trying, XL with their contact list for these services, they continue to try and contact these people. But when it gets down to the point where we can't get a contact, they have to go in and make sure these properties are okay. The last person that got turned on was on Wednesday about 3 in the morning. Scott and I were at the service center from 7 o'clock when we first both got in there, and we stayed in there until 8:30 the following morning on the 7th. And then we were in phone communication after that, but we kind of had to sleep for a while because we were starting to get kind of giddy. So, but other than that, it went pretty well. Like I say, nobody showed up at the shelters. We had the resources there if they would have been needed, but we were able to handle it with the resources we had. I got to hand it to these crews, but it's like mutual aid, excuse me. It's like mutual aid with our fire departments. When we have a big fire, we draw from the other departments that have mutual aid agreements. Utilities are the same way, electric, gas, all of them. They can bring in people from other areas, and that's exactly what they did. It's amazing how fast that those guys show up. And it's a tough situation. They're up all night. They're in areas that they don't know, but they did a fantastic job. It's same as what happened with Northern Natural in Buffalo that time. That all went pretty well.
And Steve, you said there was some misreporting a little bit from the news media too about how many houses were out after a certain amount of time. Or
I was a little stunned by that, but nothing against the media, but sometimes if they don't get the right information out, it looks kind of weird. But at 10 o'clock, it would have been 10 o'clock on the 7th, that there were 2,000 people still without service in the Waverly and Montrose area. That is not a fact. There might have been 100 left to go at that time. We were basically down to the residents that we couldn't get back into. So that was not correct.
And 10 o'clock the following evening, so a little over 24 hours.
Yeah, I think I seen that news report. I was so concerned, I texted Charlie just to make sure that he wasn't frozen to death. But I got
Commissioner Burrell was down there. He brought me a coat and pizza. No, but XL did, bring in food for all these technicians that were showing up there and all the people at the command center. They were very good about that. And again, like I say, working with Scott was really helped the situation a lot. Because we did not have that kind of cooperation at the blowdown last summer with XL on the electric side at the blowdown. We had a hard time getting somebody to show up from XL into the command post that night. So So this was really a
It was,
positive experience.
and it wasn't the temp today, but it still was cold. We had a pretty good wind that night, so people's houses cooled down quickly.
Oh, yeah.
That,
Charlie has wood, so he was getting ready to have people over at his
I
place
said they
because
could
he
come
didn't have
down.
gas.
And then plus I said,
Wasn't
I
a
told
problem.
Steve, we're empty nesters now. I said, we have 4 empty bedrooms at home if
Got an
people
electric
need them.
oven, that's a kind of a helpful then too.
One other thing we
Pick that
did
baby
do
up and open the
too,
door.
that I didn't mention, XL has its calling service that calls their clients, but we also put out a code red that night to the people in that area, a geographical area that was affected by that, and we put out that message on a code red to those people again. So again, it comes back to the people, a lot of people don't have landlines anymore. They need to register their cell phones to get these information bulletins that come out in situations like this. So, again, all of us around the county, when I'm out speaking and stuff, try to emphasize to please register your cell phone so you can get these messages. There's iPause, a thing that's coming out that eventually, if the county signs up, we are not on that yet. Some of our counties in our region are on that, which will put out messages to cell phones whether you register them or not. So they'll pick up those code reds or mass notifications eventually. But right now, if your cell phone's not registered and that's the only communication line you have, you won't get that notification.
So that would be in all cell phones in the area?
Yeah, and wherever you go, if you're traveling, it will pick that up in the area. Some phones now have notifications. There's like 3, an Amber Alert, severe weather alerts, and then a President Declaration that's on the newer smartphones. But iPause is gonna be something where it pulls in all the different notification systems and alerts those phones in that area.
And we're switching over to Everbridge, right?
Everbridge is a mass notification. We were on City Watch. City Watch got bought out by Code Red. Code Red has been having a lot of problems. And matter of fact, that night, we had a big problem with it. It wasn't working for dispatch to set it up and send that message. So our dispatcher called Code Red, got a gal that was there that was fantastic and helped correct the problem so we could get the message out. But now we're working on what that problem was. But Code Red has had some problems, that's why we're switching to Everbridge, which is another.
So Steve,
better
somebody
mass.
that is a snowbird, something like that, it's really important that they get notified. Where would they register their cell phone number then? Would,
They register a cell phone, I think they would get that, even if they're out of
just
state.
with Everbridge now, or with what?
With Code Red.
Whatever.
You
Yeah.
go
And
online.
we're not gonna have Code Red anymore.
Well,
The Everbridge.
it makes no difference. Code Red will get switched over into Everbridge. We'll
It's like
transfer.
Kleenex. The mass notification is the general term for this, and then you have the different companies that do that. Code Red is a company that deals in mass notification.
But if they get
So-
so it'd be very important for the people that are gonna be out of town to be registered for things like
The cell phone.
If
Anybody.
they had a landline, I assume they would have that forwarded to their cell phone.
maybe.
What percentage, do you know roughly in Wright County, what percentage of folks still have landlines?
I don't know what that is.
Good question.
It's getting less.
I mean,
But
I'm
it-
assuming it's still the majority
Yeah.
Yeah.
by far.
But it's
I would-
increasing.
2/3 maybe, or?
It's increasing where people are going to more cell phones and not
I
having
understand, yeah.
landlines anymore. But yeah, I think the majority has landlines yet.
Okay.
But we had the same situation when we dumped the tower down at Delano, and we put out a code red to notify people, because this happened about 2 or 3 in the morning. So when they got up and there was no water, so instead of, it's really great when we can get a mass notification out, because it sure helps out our dispatch.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
our dispatch just gets
Overwhelmed.
after call
yeah.
after
Yeah.
call.
Is there
We
any
can avoid that.
any concern with law enforcement about if you send out like a mass to an area, and that includes people's cell phones, that maybe there's someone in that area that they're referencing in this, let's say there's a burglar prowling around, and suddenly they're gonna be notified as well? Or, I guess it's better that everybody knows, even them.
Yeah, and
But
that's
you
another.
understand what I'm saying? If you,
They've done
I mean, now if you have a burglar prowling around and just the landlines get it, people might be kind of watching and looking, and in this particular case, that person would be out, would be getting the notification as well, because I think sometimes law enforcement sends out those sorts of notices to neighborhoods if there's something going on in a neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, and it, you know, that's more specific to that type of a situation. On this type of thing,
It wouldn't
we're
matter.
not too concerned about that. What
Exactly.
we are concerned about, though, are the technicians going to the house. We make sure that they have ID cards, that they have their lights on their trucks, that they're in uniform. And the thing is that the uniforms are different, though. They're not going to be like XL necessarily. There are some of those, but there's so many different services coming in from other areas. Their uniforms are different, but we want them in uniform. And they have their ID cards. We made sure that they had ID cards so they could show IDs. But again, people are aware, if they get that notification, they're aware that this is going on.
Well, Steve, thanks for coming in and
Thank you
giving
so
us that
much.
update.
It was great update.
Okay, advisory committees, advisory board updates, Commissioner Burrell.
Had a couple of meetings, but I'm gonna hold off. It's, well, nothing major.
Mark?
We do have, oh, I was gonna say, they have the buffer meeting at 10 minutes ago out at Rockford, if anybody can make it out. And
We,
Yeah, that wasn't very conducive for our schedules.
no, it wasn't.
Commissioner Delyden.
Well, we were at the AMC, but I'm going to leave that up to our illustrious chairman to talk about, since it's going to be his last chance to talk about the AMC conference.
Well, I was planning on just passing.
And this is why I'm saying to give it to you, so that way you have something to talk about.
Well, relative to AMC, I think we were all down there. The one thing that I kind of forwarded, I seen you and Lee, and I get those, there was 3 optional resolutions relative to buffer laws, so I guess you got what AMC is suggesting as if you're gonna do it, not do it, or if you're only do it with funding, those, and I think you got till March 31st to do that, so I suspect it probably doesn't make sense to act on that before probably the end of March, just to see what information, if anything's new, because it seems like new things kind of seem to come about with issues like that at the last minute when these concepts aren't totally baked yet and there's unknowns. It's kind of nice to wait and maybe things change, so I wouldn't act on that for probably another 3 months, but had a magic meeting relative to...
I never did ask you, how did that?
Well, well, the meeting went fine, of course. The fund is doing quite well, and there's getting more folks in one of the newer programs that we started a couple of years ago that was the longer-term commitment where it pays higher interest rate. But, of course, and I'm not even sure, apparently the feds must be meeting here literally any day now.
Today.
Today, okay. And pretty much everybody in the industry is certain that they're going to do a 0.25% increase today. That's pretty much what everybody thinks. Although, as the person that talked to us indicated, that doesn't mean bond rates are going to go up a 0.25% after that happens, because everybody's been assuming it's going to happen. All those increases are already built into the rates today, because that assumption is already there. The only thing that would change things is if it went up more than a 0.25% or didn't go up at all, then that would have a influence of even up or downward motion if it doesn't do what's expected, because there's all this assumption that there will. So that was kind of relative to rates, and I guess if you look at the prognosis, they handed out a sheet. I guess the long-term prognosis is the expectation is that rates are going to increase, but at a very slow rate is what most people are expecting. So that's kind of where things are relative to rates and whatnot. Inflation is low, so that will have an impact on holding them down potentially. So, but that's what I've kind of had at the meeting. So.
That's been confirmed by Bruce Kimmel when I talked to him. He said the reactions already happened between the election and the December anticipation. That's already, the bond market's already reacted to that.
And rates in Europe continue to be very, very low, and we are in a global economy, so that impacts our rates too. So, if their rates are very, very low, it's going to be hard for our rates to not be relatively, fairly low as well, because if ours are high and theirs are low, depending on, it's just not going to, the marketplace doesn't kind of balance out too well that way. Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple items. First off, I attended the Legislative Outlook put on by Byron Frickson last week. Thank you for allowing me to go there. This time around, it was, they had 4 new panelists, and it was less of the sniping and what's going to happen in the election. They actually try to get down to business as best they can. The Senate Majority Leader Paul Grigelko from Nisswa, very well versed on a lot of things. The number ones, roads, bridges, tax relief, healthcare, we're pretty much all the way through that. And the boards and all the members, Carrie Dietzick was another one, Jim Knobloch and Melissa Hortman, were all engaged better than last year. At this time, it was more sniping. I think they picked the panel just to try to see if they could pick a fight or something. A lot better with the outlook. I'm not convinced that they're going to have a special session, because what's the sense to have a special session like 15 days before they go into the new?
Right.
And the thing was, they've got some, the Minsure part of it is pretty much dealt out, but the bonding and the tax relief is not, and that's probably where the holdup's going to be, because this is the opportunity for legislators to kind of snipe and get their way if they want to show up and vote. So my 50% thinking it's going to happen is gone down from there quite a bit. I just don't see it happening.
Well, and Governor Dayton kind of picked up his ball and went home on a couple other issues.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
of course, issues have a tendency of rippling over into other issues because of, even if they're not related.
Right. And there's really no sense of urgency right now. They were going to call for the December 20th, but I don't see that happening. The other item at the AMC, I was elected chair of the Transportation Infrastructure Policy Committee.
Congratulations.
I spent 2 years as vice chair there, and it gives a little bit more maybe credibility down at the Capitol to try to push some initiatives here. Congratulations and thanks for John Okeson from Becker County. Commissioner Okeson was the chair the last 2 years, and he really set a lot of things up and really was engaged in the process of helping the awareness.
Now, you're chair for 2 years now, right?
Correct,
Did the
2 years.
AMC director just change that?
Oh, you don't have to win again next time, but 2 years is the max. Oh, but it's a 2-year term.
2-year term.
Okay, I think it used to be a 1-year term, but you could only do it for 2 years. Wasn't it?
I don't remember, but they've just changed it to, so
like
there's
the
the
first year
2-year.
we were
No, it
in,
was
they
a
switched
1,
it
yeah.
out.
Actually, though, there was a time when it wasn't just 2 years, because I remember when I got
No,
by
it's-
my
they
natural
just-
resources, there was a number of years some people were on
No,
there.
they just changed
Yeah.
it last year that now it is a 2-year term.
Yeah.
They're staggering
And
them.
they're staggering them all to
Yep.
make sure that they're not all up at the same time.
And it's a 2-year limit, or it's not a 2-year limit?
You gotta be out for 1 year before you come back.
Okay.
But there's some caveats. If you're vice chair and you resign or don't, you can't be vice chair again. Or they got all kinds of little
Yep. Nuances.
addendum A, addendum B type things, but anyway, I think the conference went well. Our platform is fairly simple like last time. I mean, all it is about funding the roads. I mean, the roads and bridges and what have you. It's,
Oh, I thought you were gonna say trains.
yeah, that issue, they avoided that pretty good this time, because I think they've already got the Metro is gonna pay for their trains. And if the legislature allows them that extra 0.25%, if they want to fund their trains, go right ahead. And I think everybody in greater Minnesota was okay with that. It was interesting conference. Now it's time to move on, see what get some done. One of the changes I wanted to make with the AMC board that I was frustrating me for the past 2 years is that the vice chair of any of the committees weren't given the board packet. They were given the packet at the same time you or I have access to it. And a couple occasions I had to step up and take the spot of the chair, coming in cold with just barely getting stuff there, last minute thing. And I've been pushing to get that changed so the vice chair also has that information. So if they have to step in on moment's notice, at least you've had time to read the material before you get there.
No, they should.
Well, they should, but it's been a struggle getting administration to see that one. But that's all I have today, Mr. Chair.
Chris?
All right, I was at a number of meetings. The Tri-County Regional Forensic Lab was on November 29th, and we will have a new partner coming in the middle of 2017, Isani County, so we're happy to have them. And that will change the amount of money that we're contributing to the lab.
Can I ask
And
a
we're
question
also-
on that then?
Yes.
Is there an expectation then that that's going to come back and get approval from each of the three counties? Because we have a joint powers
we
agreement
do.
with three counties, and I'm not sure that somebody can unilaterally join it without totally changing it and basically allowing the counties to
Right, and-
allow them in, and
Yep, that's a very good point. And we're going to also have we're establishing a funding formula group. So we'll meet actually in January, and there'll be a sheriff from each county. But that would not, actually, that would be the three counties, because they're not, Isani would not be part of that yet. And a commissioner from each county and a member from each county at the county's discretion. So that'll be coming up. We got a 2-year grant to help with the DNA backlog, and we'll also be looking at a name change if Isani comes in, and we're looking at Midwest Regional Crime Lab instead of Tri-County, because in case we would get other partners. But their testing is way up. So far this year, they've fielded 720 new biology cases. That's up 30% from last year. And criminal sexual conduct case submissions have also more than doubled. So they're extremely busy, and that's the other challenge, how to keep it so you don't have to continue to hire more people. But having the 2-year grant for the DNA biologist certainly helps that. I attended a lot of good sessions at AMC. I know Commissioner DeLyden was in the cybersecurity, and just one thing I wrote down was, as far as cybersecurity, we need to build culture of security. It's a treadmill, stay on it. So I thought that was kind of a good way to put it, because their risk is everywhere, and virtually all data out there has value. And I wasn't even thinking in terms of like healthcare records, and a lot of times that data can be breached for 6 months before they even notice that it's been taken. So
Yeah, they had some values
yeah,
on what it was worth on the black market
yeah.
for a birth date and a social security number.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a value attached to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
So that's what it would sell for in the black market.
Yep.
It was very interesting. Yeah, like
really
you say, the
was.
treadmill, it wasn't you do it and you're done. It's constant.
It's constant.
But it's always
constant.
changing.
It's a treadmill.
Yep.
Stay on it.
Yep.
And, yeah, just a lot of good sessions. The children of incarcerated parents, I'd gone to another session on that prior to this one, but to think that there's 1.75 million children in the United States who has a parent in the prison system in the United States, and actually Minnesota exceeds the national rates. So children, or incarcerated men with children, is 66% in Minnesota. In the U.S. is 51%, and 56% of those fathers were living with their children prior to their arrest, whereas the national average is 36%. Incarcerated women with children is 77% in Minnesota and 62% nationwide. And prior to them being incarcerated, if they were living with their children, was 66%, Minnesota 55% in the United States. And of course, all the challenges, there's financial material hardship, there's the unpredictability in their relationships, there's difficulty with their relationships in school and academic performance, and also their physical health is down with children. They struggle with mental health and the social stigma from that also. And a lot of kids, keep it secret. They don't let people know that their parent is in prison. So there's a lot of repercussions for that. But it was kind of fun, well, I don't know fun, but when I went to the Safe Schools meeting the next day, and shared some of the information. No, I probably can't find my Safe Schools sheet, but so many of the organizations there were actually working with providing resources and gifts and that kind of thing for the children of incarcerated parents. So they're well aware of the problems, and that's good.
So when you were growing up, you know, most kids won't say that their parents are in jail, but were you just saying then, my dad's a judge?
I was older when
he put kids in jail, or he put people in jail?
I was older when he went on the bench, so
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
have to say anything. I kept that quiet too. No.
Oh, okay.
And then Public Works Safety Management Committee, we had a good meeting last Thursday. And just to share one little bit of information that I thought was wonderful, actually. Our guys are crushing 25,000 pounds of gravel per year, and a value of, wait, was that 25,000 pounds, right, Lee?
Tons.
Or
Tons, I think it
Tons,
was.
tons, yeah, I didn't write down tons.
Our yards,
Probably tons.
either tons or yards is.
Yard.
what we-
I remember from my yard.
It is, and it's, they're saving about, by crushing our own gravel, we're saving about $150,000 on gravel and purchasing gravel a year, so hopefully, our gravel is gonna last for a while, and we've got a pretty good supply, but I don't know, did they say it might go out 8 years, or? I
Less
didn't
than
write
10.
that down.
I didn't write that down, but
Yeah.
Less than 10.
Yeah, less than 10 years, so.
I think it's important to note that as we move forward with any construction projects, if there's any way we can maximize that.
Yes, yep, very true.
Gotta
And,
pretend you're performing, get that voice out.
I also had Central Minnesota Jobs and Training meeting, the Joint Powers meeting, and we talked a little bit about the SEDS grant. The Federal Economic Developer was hired with that, and they'll write the SEDS plan, and they're looking at the governments of the board and help, you know, the purpose, of course, is to help the businesses grow, and this grant goes through the end of 2017. We had our audit. Our auditors came in and gave a very good report, a clean audit. They said they've always enjoyed going to doing their audit because it was Clifton Larson Allen, because they're very organized with their information, their data, and they're I guess rather than going to any of it, since we're going to another meeting, but yeah, it was good information, and it made all of us feel very good to know that they're keeping a close eye on all the grants and, you know, the revenues and the expenditures, so doing a great job. Thanks for your part.
One final note, I didn't mention, I attended the solar discussion there at AMC, and it was pretty interesting. Of course, one of the big discussion points was that 1,000-acre facility. I think it's 100 megawatts, I believe, in Chisago County. But there were some other counties up there as well, Chisago and some others, and there was some talk about ordinances and that sort of thing. And one thing that I seen, and a lot of what we do is similar to what the other counties do, or at least the same. A lot of the same issues exist, of course. But one thing I noticed that I thought was kind of interesting, they showed a fence, and one of the county planning administrators indicated that the solar companies say they have to have fences. They need to protect their panels and the investors want to have a fence around it. But they said, we didn't want these chain link fence with barbed wire out in the country because that looks like an institutional fence, not an agricultural fence. So he showed a picture of the solar panels, and they had like the 4-inch round posts with what looked like probably about a 6 or an 8 foot high agricultural fence around that thing that you would think that someone, like I say, and when I seen that, it's like, wow, that really does fit into that agricultural neighborhood better than that chain link fence. So, Charlie, that might be something to keep in mind. And basically what he said is, you know, the solar people told us, well, we have to have this chain link fence, and we told them, no, you're not having it, and guess what? They agreed to put in the one that kind of.
We already don't let the barbed wire, that's.
Well, but even the chain link, I mean, they had the, you know, the rectangular, square-looking thing that you
You have to
would,
show me some pictures of it.
well, again,
You got a
4-inch round posts with, you know, every 8 feet or so with rectangular, the sort of, pattern to the fence.
You got an email from AMC regarding all the different sessions, and I believe there's some links and all that sort of stuff.
Well, like I say, when I just looked at it, it's like, yeah, that really does fit in better into the neighborhood, more so than the chain link one, so. But like I said, that was just kind of something small that I noticed, but by and large, I mean, they talked about setbacks, they talked about many of the same sorts of things that were issues in our discussion and, as well, but, I thought the fence was interesting. Anything else to come before the board? There being nothing else, we are adjourned at 10:31 a.m.